Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful silence together. Let us begin and move on to our next part of our gathering tonight and in the morning for some people. Tonight we will be starting our discussion by reading from the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. We are referring to the first discourse titled Obsession of the Mind, page number 89. For that, I would like to warmly invite our friend Onari to read the passage aloud for us. And also I would like to respectfully invite our teacher, Bhante DhammaKusala, to lead us in this discussion. Over to you, Onari.
Thank you, Anthony. So again, this is Obsessions of the Mind, which is the first on page 89. 1. Thus have I heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus. Venerable Sir, those bhikkhus replied, the Blessed One said this. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other form that so obsesses the mind of a man as the form of a woman. The form of a woman obsesses the mind of a man. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one... Oh.
Onari.
Yes.
Yes, now you can see the structure of this book. This is the Book of the Ones. So you can see these are short discourses and it gives some background text like where the Blessed One was and probably the occasion, and then it goes into the short teaching that's in the discourse. And you can see it's numbered 1, 2, 3, like that it's numbered. So these are separate discourses that are collected together, and the supporting text, the background text, it is only given in the first one. Then we have to understand the same background text continues for the rest of the discourses as well. So in a way to save time and space probably, it is presented in this manner. And the Blessed One speaks to the venerables that are gathered there and start the explanation. And you can see in the very first discourse, it's starting with an interesting topic. In order to get into this topic, we might need to spend some time to understand a little bit about the teaching. It talks about the form. So this is basically an explanation based on 6 senses, otherwise 6 sensor bases. So you can see eye and the form, ear and the sounds, then nose and odor, tongue and taste, body and touch, and the mind objects. So those are the 6 sense bases. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. They are called internal sense bases. Then form, sound, odor, taste, touch, mind objects. They are called external sense bases. So the particular explanation goes in this type of explanation or this format. It's an explanation based on 6 senses. And you have to understand that in this practice, it talks about the ways of sensual pleasure. Otherwise, 5 chords of sensual pleasure, or 5 types of sensual pleasure. Eye and the form, then ear and the sounds, nose and the odors, tongue and the taste, body and touch. So these 5 senses are involved in the sense pleasure. You find different ways to pleasure these senses. So in this teaching, you can see 5 chords of sense pleasure, or 5 different ways of sense pleasure. So that's the background of this explanation. And it starts with a somewhat interesting, somewhat deep kind of a explanation. The Blessed One is saying, I do not see even one other form that so obsesses the mind of a man as the form of a woman. The form of a woman obsesses the mind of a mind. Sorry, the mind of a man. Right? So you can see out of these different types of forms, what obsesses the mind of a man the most? That's what the Blessed One is explaining. So you can see we go travel, we go to different countries, we prefer going to nature, we prefer seeing different movies, and maybe picture books are also there. So you can see a whole lot of colorful forms are out there in the world. And many people, they prefer traveling, enjoying the different sights, different sceneries. So this way, in a way, we are in a quest to pleasure our eyes, or we are in a quest to find different types of forms for our eyes. That's how we function. In a day, you can see so many occasions like that. You are simply enjoying the sight. You are simply enjoying the form that's out there. Right? So this way, we are in a quest. We to find different types of forms to pleasure our eyes. And this particular explanation, it's about what obsesses the mind of a man the most, form of a woman. Right? So that's what Buddha is saying. And we can discuss this further going forward into the other discourses. I just wanted to give that brief explanation for the very first time on our ears.
Thank you, Bhante. Do you want me to continue reading?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think we're at number 2. Because I do not see even one other sound that so obsesses the mind of a man as the sound of a woman. The sound of a woman obsesses the mind of a man.
Yes, we'll pause there as well. Now you can see it comes to the second sense base, ear and the sounds, right? So let's say hearing a variety of sounds, we tend to enjoy them. Nowadays, when we go to certain like new sessions, maybe the audience is totally new to the practice. So we ask them, what do you do for your mental health? What do you do to relax yourself? And when we ask that, they come up with different answers. Some of the people, they say, I don't know about mental health. I am not doing anything for my mental health. But probably without them being aware, they are still doing certain things that helps them relax, that helps them reduce stress, right? So mental health, it's an interesting topic, and it's good to introduce that to the people. We know physical health. In this world, we have this idea, at least we should be exercising, that we know. But most people are unaware about their mental health. They know the physical health, but they are not aware of their mental health. So in a way, it's important for us to spread awareness about the mental health. And when you go and ask them, usually they are dumbfounded about the topic. But you tell them that you probably are not aware, but still you are doing some things for your mental health. And when you question that type of audience, sometimes they come up with listening to music. That's their way of relaxation. They say, I prefer listening to music, and that helps me to relax. So you can see, in a way, it is pleasuring your ears. Most of us, I think we have that hobby or that type of relaxation. We prefer listening to music, especially if it is like classical music. Then we tend to relax. Yes, so those ways are there, and this is basically pleasuring your ears. So lot of sounds are there in the outside world, and we go in search of them. Some people, they like the nature sounds. Some people, they like classical music, right? So that way, pleasuring your ears, it's working, it's happening. And this particular teaching, it talks about what pleasures the ears the most. Otherwise, what sound obsesses the mind of a man the most? Sound of a woman. So that's what Buddha is saying. Okay, then we'll move on to the next one.
Number 3. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other odor that so obsesses the mind of a man as the odor of a woman. The odor of a woman obsesses the mind of a man.
Yes, continue to the next one as well.
Okay. Number 4. Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other taste that so obsesses the mind of a man as the taste of a woman. The taste of a woman obsesses the mind of a man.
Yes, now it talks about the nose and the tongue. It's about pleasuring the nose and the tongue. And you can see different odors are there, a variety of taste are there. But out of them, what obsesses the mind of a man the most? That's what the Blessed One is explaining. Now, in this modern world, when you go to a restaurant, there you can find different types of sense pleasure. It's not about only tasting the food. That's not how they present it. Instead, probably they will try to please your eyes, maybe beautifully done architecture and everything. Then the waiter, probably a young man or a woman. Yes, so you can see the pleasuring the eyes, the form that's there. Then you can hear classical music in the background. That's there in a restaurant. And then not only the taste of the food, but you can get the aroma, the smell of the food. That's also presented. And in a plate, the food is presented in a way that attracts your eyes. You can see it's arranged in a very nice kind of a presentation, right? Again, the form, then the taste, right? So that way, not only the tongue that they are pleasing, instead they try to please all the 5 different chords of sense pleasure. Form to the eyes, then sounds to the ears, then taste to the tongue, different types of aromas for your nose, and even touch to the body, right? So that way, even when you go to a restaurant, they try to present this in a way so you can enjoy the food in different ways, and all the 5 different chords of sense pleasure, it is involved. And nowadays you can see your food comes with a gold wrapping. It's not actually wrapping. You can simply eat, right? You can go and tell your friends that I ate gold today. It is not there's no nutrition that's there. Only pleasing the mind probably. You can boost your ego telling that you have consumed gold today. You ate gold today. So that type of a presentation is there. You can see when you go to a luxurious restaurant, all these different types of sense pleasures are involved. That's the modern world. And here the Blessed One is teaching us what order obsesses the mind of a man the most. What taste obsesses the mind of a man the most. Order of a woman, taste of a woman. So you can see where this teaching is leading us. We can talk about whether humans being sexual or sensual. Those type of discussions we can have going forward into the other parts. You may continue on.
So number 5, Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other touch that so obsesses the mind of a man as the touch of a woman. The touch of a woman obsesses the mind of a man.
Yes, so that's also clear. We experience a lot of touch, and especially let's say when you are a baby, you explore the world with touch probably. That's one of the prominent senses for an infant. They tend to touch everything. They try to hold on to everything and they explore the world like that. Even a power cord, they don't care, they simply go and touch it. Right? So that's how a baby, an infant, they would explore the world. And mother gives the warmth and the touch, and that feels like heaven for the baby, right? And whenever it feels the touch of the mother, the baby is calm and comfortable and drinking milk. So that way the baby is nourished. So you can see these things, these different sense bases. Maybe we start with senses like touch. Gradually, the more powerful sense bases, they take over. Sometimes eyes, they take over when you grow up. The ears, they take over when you grow up. Then, in a way, the other sense bases, they are little bit suppressed. Usually when it comes to us, our prominent sense is, that's eyes. That's our prominent sense. And whenever we try to practice mindful sitting, let's say, you sit in a comfortable manner, you close your eyes, and suddenly the sounds become so prominent. Why? Because the eyes are closed. When the eyes are closed, the second most powerful sense probably, it takes over. And the meditators, they complain so much about the surrounding sounds. That complaint is there, right? So while meditating, you try to bring your attention to the breathing, which is basically a touch sensation, a bodily sensation. And it's difficult to bring attention to that particular sensation because of the sounds. If your eyes are open, then it's worse probably. So you can see the prominence of these sense bases. The eyes are very strong. Then comes the sounds. Then all these other sense bases are there. So when we try to bring our attention to something like touch, it's not easy because of the other prominent senses. But that's okay. That's natural. We simply figure out a way to bring our attention to a touch sensation. And the breathing, maybe few breath cycles, you are able to maintain your attention there. You are able to continue with that attention. Time after time, the various other sense bases, they try to grab your attention, but you realize it and you bring your attention back to the original sense base, or otherwise the touch sensation. So as the meditation object, we select the touch. Now you all of you have to be clear in your head. That's our primary object. Let's say you do your mindful walking sensations, touch of your feet, that would be your primary object. You sit in a sitting session, the breathing or the movements of your belly, that would be your primary object. You do your daily other activities, let's say having your meals, brushing your teeth, where to bring your attention, where to bring your mindfulness. Simply prioritize the bodily sensations. That's how the meditation is done. So when we spread the message of Dhamma, when we spread the practice of meditation, we should be able to convey this message to the others. We have to tell them, out of these different sense bases, we select the touch sensation for our meditation. We take that particular sensation as the primary object. You walk in a comfortable manner, you observe which touch sensation becomes prominent in your body. You sit in meditation, you close your eyes and you simply observe which touch sensation becomes prominent in your body. You do any other activity, you be mindful and simply observe what are the prominent bodily sensations. So that way, you have to understand what is the proper sense base for the meditation. Otherwise, if you simply allow your mind to run freely, there won't be any meditation. Simply a struggle of different senses. The eye will drag you somewhere. The ears will try to drag you elsewhere. All these different senses are struggling. So it's not meditation. Instead, you have to be clear in your head, what is the point of attention? Where should I keep my attention? That understanding is very important. And without that understanding, your meditation won't grow. You won't be meditating probably. Buddha gives this very nice metaphor about these different senses. There, for that particular explanation, Buddha is taking all the different 6 sense bases. And in the metaphor, he's saying that eyes are like a particular animal. Then the ears are like a different animal. Right? So that way he gives 6 different types of animals for the 6 different sense bases. A monkey, a crocodile, a cobra, then a fox, and a bird. I think I covered all the 6, right? So that way he gives 6 different animals, and he's saying they are bound together by a leash. Each and every animal is bound by a leash, and all the 6 leashes, they are bound together. And you set them free. So you can see the crocodile is dragging them towards the water. The bird is dragging them towards the sky. The monkey is dragging them towards a tree. The snake probably is dragging them elsewhere. The fox is dragging them somewhere else. So that way, all these 6 different animals, they have their own dwelling place. They have their unique dwelling place, right? So they try to simply drag you there. So you can see simply going this way a little bit, going somewhere else a little bit. So that way, the mind is moving here and there. So that's not the way of the meditation. Buddha says that won't do any good. Simply the most powerful animal will drag you to its dwelling place. Probably the crocodile will win. It will drag you towards the water. All the 6 other 5 animals, the crocodile will drag them towards the water. So that way, if you simply try to be there and meditate, that's not going to work. Instead, you have to pick your primary object. Introducing the correct primary object, it's a task of the teacher. If you are not clear in your head, you have to question. If you are not clear in your head, you have to get the advice and go practice. Right? So that way, you have to be practicing. You have to understand the correct way of meditation and simply improve that in your daily life. Right? So this is a good point where we can introduce the meditation, especially if there is a beginner here. We encourage them to simply prioritize a bodily sensation. Prioritize a bodily sensation, and with that, you continue your practice. Probably like for 20 minutes, at least for 20 minutes, do a sitting session daily. At least for like 20 minutes, do a walking session daily. And in your daily life, try to bring your attention to the bodily sensations. It shouldn't be a disturbance for your daily life. That's not the case. Instead, you are simply, while doing your daily activities, you simply try to bring your attention to a bodily sensation every now and then. That's the very idea. So sitting for 20 minutes, that's a great way to support your mental health. Probably early in the morning, you sit for 20 minutes before you go to your daily activities, before you go to your work. You sit for 20 minutes and you simply be, and then you go and start your day. Probably at the end of the day, before you go to bed, in a certain level of low light, you can simply walk for 20 minutes. That helps you to relax your senses after a long day, right? So that way you have to introduce the meditation practice into your daily life. And before you go do all the activities, before you go do all the different tasks that you have in hand, you simply sit for a while. You simply be quiet. You simply observe the breathing sensation. So that way you start your day probably like with 20 minutes of meditation. You prioritize the breathing sensation. Then you end your day probably with like 20 minutes of walking. You prioritize the steps. And throughout the day, you try to bring your attention to a prominent bodily sensation. You have to prioritize a prominent bodily sensation. Don't try to, make it a weird kind of a pattern, or don't try to, make it a disturbance for your daily activities. That's not the case. I remember one person was complaining about their mother. She used to cook fine, probably like within 1 hour. She used to cook in the morning, but after being introduced to meditation, it takes her 45 minutes simply to cut the vegetables. Mindfully cutting. That's not the case. That's like more like, getting into a weird kind of a pattern. No, it shouldn't be a obstacle for your daily activities. You simply do your daily activities. You allow the machine to work and simply be the observer. That's the very idea. Otherwise, when you start meditating, you become a cripple. That shouldn't be the case. You should be able to do your things even more freely if you are meditating, right? So prioritize a bodily sensation, go with that, and gradually when you develop your meditation, these things, they come into place. Otherwise, you simply read through a book, but you don't experience what Buddha is talking about. The best way to embrace the Dhamma is to simply experience. And we come back again, we discuss again. Again, we go back to our daily lives, try to meditate. Again, we come back and discuss. So that type of a continuous loop is there for us to become closer to Dhamma, right? So I think that would be a good ending point for today. We are at fifth one, right? Yes, Onar, if you can read that part once again, and with that we will end.
Okay, sure. So number 5, Bhikkhus, I do not see even one other touch that so obsesses the mind of a man as the touch of a woman. The touch of a woman obsesses the mind of a man.
Yes, so just make a note here, and next time when we start, we'll start with this point, the fifth one. We'll start with the fifth one and we'll go forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bhante, for that valuable guidance and explanations. And also thank you, Anari, for bringing the text into life for us. We appreciate both of you. Thank you. As we come to the end of our discourse discussion, I would like to open this space for any closing thoughts or reflections. Now, this is a chance to share that something that resonate with you, or a learning that you are planning to take away, or as anything, any questions you have, any doubts. This is a good chance, or simply words of gratitude. All the questions, all the thoughts, all the reflections are welcome. You can unmute the mic by yourself, or you can raise your Zoom hand if you wish to speak. Joseph?
Yes. Hello, Kapani.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I just wanted to say two things that crossed my mind. The first one, when I was reading the sutta before we started, I was just taken how the Buddha went very directly to this thing. It seems like such a sort of clear truth, and the fact that he just presents it like it's just very factual. And I thought that was the first thing that struck me. And then the other thing from the discourse tonight was the emphasis on the touch sensation in the meditation, to always make that the primary object. I find for myself, for example, I'm having the breath as my primary object, but I don't sort of always stay with the breath. I sort of have a bit more of a, say, open awareness. I notice the breath time to time. If I feel stressed or lost, then I check the breath. I see if the breath is calm, if it's gotten rough, and that's a bit of a check-in. So I just wanted to present that observation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Now, the first one, yes. So this is our very first session, and it's a difficult place to start with, but this is the reality. So Buddha is directly going there, simply explaining, okay, what obsesses the mind of a man the most, right? And of course, the teaching continues, what obsesses the mind of a woman the most, right? So those things we can discuss further, especially the explanation about the very existence being sexual or sensual. So those things, even in psychology, they talks about it being sexual, but according to Buddha's explanation, it is basically sensual. But out of sense pleasure, what obsesses the mind of a man the most? What obsesses the mind of a woman the most? Right? So this is a interesting place, a difficult place probably to start with, but that's okay. This is the reality. So we can talk about it in future as well, and we will see how we can understand it better. I would add one more thing. Now, when people, let's say you live a lay life and you are interested in this practice of Dhamma, and at a certain point of your life, you become a nun or a monk, you start observing celibacy in your life. And till that point, you have been fine. You have been a good person. You have been dealing with your daily matters quite good. And at a certain point, you become a monk or a nun, and you start observing the celibacy. And when that happens, you can really see, for some people, for most people, let's say, the personality of them, it's changing. Not quickly, but after many years, many decades, you can see probably they are bursting with anger most of the time. Why? Because the reason is hidden here. In this teaching, we can say what obsesses the mind of a man the most, what obsesses the mind of a woman the most. It's not only about sex. Instead, simply talking to an opposite sex, spending time with them, right? All these different senses are involved, right? So you can see they started their practice, they started their monkhood life, but this very difficulty becomes so strong, and the unfortunate thing is that it doesn't manifest as sexual needs. Instead, it manifests as anger, or maybe some other different type of like jealousy or some other thing, right? Even some people they go into certain kind of mental difficulties. They become mentally sick because this is the primary need. This is the primary need. When that is not fed, when that is not given, you can see how it is affecting one's psyche, right? So those things we can discuss further. That's one thing. Then about the second thought, I would like to emphasize, in the sitting, the primary object would be breathing. You have to always mention in the sitting, because in our different types of activities, we prefer different types of prominent bodily sensation. If you are walking, then the touch of your feet. If you are sitting, probably the breathing. If you are doing some other activity, probably a different bodily sensation. So we have to always mention in the sitting, the primary object would be breathing. In the walking, the primary object would be steps. In the daily activities, the primary object would be different. So this is not about, simply meditating at a certain time interval. Instead, as long as we are alive, as long as we are awake, we are meditating. So simply being mindful of your body and continuing your daily task. If you know your primary object, as you mentioned, if you know your primary object, then it doesn't matter, your attention is not always there. As long as you know. The most important thing is that you know that your attention is supposed to be with the breathing, but it's with the thoughts, right? No harm is done. Why? Because you know that you are in a wrong place. You know that you are supposed to be with the breathing. But what to do? The thoughts come. That's okay. That's okay. Right? Simply, you know where your attention should be. That's what important. So understanding that is important. And in your practice, sometimes the thoughts come. That's okay. Start analyzing certain situations. That's okay. But time after time, we are able to return our attention to the breathing, and we are able to continue with that priority.
Thank you for that valuable answer for Joseph's question and sharing. Thank you. Thank you, Joseph, for that share. Now that we have come to the end of our session for this week, I would like to take this moment to extend my gratitude to our respected teacher and all of you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your presence, for your practice, and for your valuable contributions and participation. We will meet again next week as well, the same time. Until then, take care. See you next time.